Hello there, McKnox here, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this, a cute little bunny, just in time for Easter Sunday. I make videos like this every week, so if you're interested in crocheting, then make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share, and let's get started. For this project today, you're going to need a crochet hook. I'm using a 3.5mm hook because I'm using a 4-weight yarn. A pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a stuffing stick, stuffing, of course, eye pins. I'll be using these ones right here. You can use whatever ones you like. Eye backs to go with them. Now for yarn, I'm using this premium white chenille for the body. You can use whatever yarn you like. Pink for the nose and the tail. Black to make the mouth. If you want to make the carrot, you'll also need orange. And then green for the carrot top. And that's it. So let's get started. So we're going to begin by making the head. And you're going to start by making a magic circle of 6 single crochet. I'm using chenille yarn, which can be a bit difficult to work with. If you're using acrylic or another type of yarn, you may need to make some slight adjustments when detailing the face. Okay, for round 2, we're increasing from 6 to 12 stitches. So just put 2 single crochet into every stitch. Move your stitch marker at the end. Now we're going from 12 to 18 stitches. So do a single crochet into that first stitch and then increase into the next one. And just repeat that all around your circle until the end. I have 18 stitches and now I'm going to increase from 18 to 24. So I'm going to do 2 single crochet and then an increase. And I'm going to repeat that 5 more times until the end of my round. For the next 2 rounds, I'm just going to put a single crochet into every one of those stitches. Make sure to move your stitch marker at the end of each round. Okay, I just finished my second round. Now you're going to want to leave your stitch marker where it is, and you're going to want to grab a second stitch marker. Leave this one here because this is the round that you'll be putting your eyes into. So for now, leave that there and do one more round of single crochet. And when you get to the end of this round, insert that second stitch marker. Okay, so now we're increasing from 24 to 32. So make 2 single crochet and then an increase. And do this a total of 8 times. Alright, I have 32 stitches. Now I'm just going to do a single crochet into every one of those stitches for 3 rounds. Make sure to move your stitch marker at the end of each round. I finished my 3 rounds. I'm going to pause here and insert my eyes. Now, depending on the yarn and the eyes that you're using, you may want to insert the eyes around above or below where I'm placing mine, but I'm going to put my eyes into this round. Now, taking my second eye, I'm going to count over 5 stitches and insert my eye into that 5th stitch. Then, snap my backs into place. Alright, let's continue. For this round, we're decreasing from 32 back down to 24. I'm going to start off with my decrease, and when doing my decrease, I'm going to do an invisible decrease. I'm going through that first front loop, pivot my hook, and go through that second front loop. Yarn over, pull through those loops, make sure my yarn is tight, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops on my hook. Then, make 2 single crochet. And just repeat that. Now the reason that I do an invisible decrease is that it's a lot neater. If you look, you can hardly tell it's a decrease. If you have difficulty doing an invisible decrease, you can just do a standard one. So I'm going through those 2 front loops, pull my yarn through those loops, tighten my yarn, yarn over, and pull through, and then 2 single crochet. And you're going to do this for a total of 8 times, and you should have 24 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, I have my 24 stitches. You can start stuffing your project here, but since mine is rather large, I'm going to wait for now. For our last round, we're decreasing from 24 to 12 stitches. So we're going to decrease over 2 stitches all the way around, and that should give you 12 stitches at the end. Fasten off your tail. There, the head is done. I attach my yarn to my needle. I'm just going to push my needle into the next stitch and then up into my head and out of my way. And now's the time to start stuffing the head. Make sure when you're stuffing to stuff it firmly. If you're using acrylic yarn, be careful not to overstuff your work and stretch your stitches. Make sure you get that stuffing down deep into the head and fill out the sides. You can push the head into shape a bit and even roll it between your palms to even it out. To make the body, we're going to start off with a magic circle of 7 single crochet. We're making 7 stitches this time, not 6. For this next round, we're increasing from 7 to 14. So put 2 single crochet into every stitch around. Move your stitch marker at the end. For the third round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase. And we're doing that 7 times. So at the end of the round, we'll have 21 stitches. Now we're increasing from 21 to 28 stitches. So I'm going to make 2 single crochet, then an increase. I'm going to do that all the way around. 2 single crochet, increase, and you'll have a total of 28 stitches. For this round, we're just putting a single crochet into every stitch around. Make sure that you have 28 stitches. Now we're decreasing from 28 to 26 stitches. So make 12 single crochet and then a decrease. And I'll be doing an invisible decrease as I've already explained how to do. Then make another 12 single crochet and decrease over your last 2 stitches. This time we're decreasing from 26 to 24. We're going to start with our decrease this round. Now we do this for 2 reasons. 1, it's easier to decrease when you're not decreasing on the same spot. But also, if we keep decreasing over the same spot, it can warp our project just a bit. So this time, start off with the decrease, and then make 11 single crochet. Then another decrease, and another 11 single crochet. Decreasing from 24 to 22, we're going to start by making a single crochet into those first 10 stitches. Then do our decrease. Then another 10 single crochet. And then a second decrease. We're going from 22 stitches to 20 now. So start off with a decrease and then do 9 single crochet. Then another decrease and then another 9 single crochet. For this round, we're decreasing from 20 to 18 stitches. So we're starting with 8 single crochet, then a decrease. Another 8 single crochet, and decrease in our last 2 stitches. Okay, this time we're decreasing from 18 to 15. So that means we're going to decrease in our first stitch and then make 4 single crochet. Decrease into that first stitch, then 4 single crochet. And repeat that one more time, and at the end of the round, you should have 15 stitches. I'm going to pause here for a minute, and I'm just going to start stuffing my body. Make sure to push it down into the bottom. This is where the stuffing stick can really come in handy. We'll stuff it a little bit more when we sew the body and the head together. For our last round, we're decreasing from 15 to 12. So start off with 3 single crochet and then a decrease. And you're going to do this 3 times. 3 single crochet, decrease. 3 single crochet, and our last is a decrease. Fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing. I just finished my last round, and I'm going to stuff my body just a little bit more. So, sewing the body to the head is pretty simple. All you're going to do is line your stitches up. I've threaded my needle, and I'm just going to come up into this head stitch right here. Push 1 stitch over, and come back down into the next stitch in my body. Then, push my needle out 1 stitch over again, and come back up into my head. And just keep repeating this all the way around your head. When you get to the last few stitches, you can add a little bit more stuffing to your body. After you've sewn up the last stitches, bring your 2 yarn tails together, knot and hide them. Now we're going to make the ears. So to make the ear, we're going to start off with a magic circle of 6 single crochet. Now we're going to increase from 6 to 12 stitches. So put 2 single crochet into each one of those stitches. For the next 3 rounds, I'm just going to put a single crochet into every stitch. Move your stitch marker at the end of every round, and I'll meet you there. I've finished my 3 rounds. Now I'm just going to decrease from 12 to 10 stitches. So I'm going to start with an invisible decrease, then make 4 single crochet, another decrease, and another 4 single crochet. For the next 2 rounds, we're just putting a single crochet into every stitch. Make sure to move your stitch marker at the end of each round. Okay, now we're decreasing from 10 stitches to 8. So I'm going to do a decrease, then 3 single crochet, another decrease, and then another 3 single crochet. For our last round, we're decreasing from 8 to 6 stitches. So start by making 2 single crochet and then a decrease. 2 single crochet and another decrease. Fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. Repeat those steps and make another ear. So the good news is, the arms and feet are made the exact same way. You start with a magic circle of 6 single crochet. Now that we've closed our magic circle, we're just going to make 5 rounds of 6 single crochet, so a total of 30 stitches, and fasten off our work at the end. And just repeat these steps 3 more times so that you have 4 arms total. We won't be stuffing these pieces. The next step is to make the hips on the bunny. Now, you don't have to add these if you don't want to. You can just sew the feet on. But I want to add hips to mine, and they're really easy to do. So, you start off with a magic circle of 5 single crochet. Now, we're increasing from 5 to 10 stitches. So just 2 single crochet into every stitch around. For this round, we're increasing from 10 to 15. So do 1 single crochet, then an increase. And do that 4 more times, and you'll have 15 stitches at the end. The last round is just 1 single crochet into every stitch. So just make 15 single crochet and fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. And cut that inside tail short. Make 2 of these. Okay, I have all of my pieces. We'll be making the tail last. First and foremost, I'll be attaching one of my ears to my yarn needle, and I'm going to flatten the ear on the corner of my last stitch. Now, taking my needle, I'm going to push it through the stitches of both sides of that ear. Then, come through those middle 2 stitches, and then through the last 2. Now, pick up my bunny. I'm going to find the center stitch of his head. And I'm going to count over 3 stitches. Then insert my needle and pull my ear down. Now I'm going to push my needle through the corner of my ear and back down into this first stitch. I'm going to weave my needle back through my head, and this time I'm coming up in that stitch right beside the first one I just went into. Then come through the middle stitches of my ear here and back down into that same stitch I'm coming out of again. Push my needle out 1 stitch over and go through the corner of my ear and back down into that stitch again. And there, that's one ear sewn on. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the second ear on the other side. Line up with the center of my head and count over 3 stitches. And start sewing my ear on into that 3rd stitch. Once that's done, I'm going to knot and hide my yarn tails. To sew the arm on, just like with the ears, we're going to flatten it at the fasten off stitch right here. Sew through both sides of the arm. Now, when attaching my arm, what I'm going to do is actually count over 2 stitches from my eye and then line my arm up with this 3rd stitch. Push my needle into this stitch right here. You can position your arm in various ways. I'm going to angle mine just slightly. So I'm going to count down 2 rounds and then come out of that 3rd stitch here. Then come up through the back of my arm and go back down into that same stitch. Alright, now I'm going to move my needle up underneath my arm again, and I'm going to go through that middle stitch of my arm and then back down into my body. And one last time, I'm going to go back into that 1st stitch, come up and through it, and back down into the body once again. And just do the exact same thing for your other arm. Knot and hide your tails. So when sewing on your hip, you're going to use your arms as a guide of where to start sewing. I'm going to insert my needle into a stitch 1 round below my arm. You want to hold the hip in place as you sew. And take note of what round your other side of the hip lines up with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by pinning this stitch down here first. Then come over a stitch on this side of my hip, come up and through the body in this stitch, and then back down again. What this does is it pins that hip into place to make sewing it on much easier. And I'm going to pin a stitch down here at the bottom of my hip as well. I'll be keeping this side open because this is where I'll be pushing my stuffing into. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come back to these stitches in between the ones I just pinned down, and I'm going to start sewing them to my body. So I'm going to come up through my body, and then my hip stitch, and then back down into the body again. You could come up through or under the hip stitch, that's fine. We want to use a looping sewing method because it makes it look more seamless. Now, when I get to this side, I'm going to stop before sewing these last stitches. And I'm going to just push a little bit of stuffing into that hip. Not a lot, you don't want to overstuff it. Alright, now finish sewing those last few stitches. And do the exact same thing for the other side. Knot and hide your tails. Okay, now we're going to attach the feet. And just like with the arms, we're going to sew these flat. I'm going to flip my bunny upside down and see where I want his feet placed. I'm going to go into this first stitch right here, then come up through the body and into the center stitch of my foot, and go back down into that stitch. So it's just the same method as when we sewed the arm on. After I've sewn the edge of my foot, I'm actually going to go up into my body and then up into the middle of my foot. And then I'm going to go back down into my foot and into my body. And this will help to pin the feet in place. Once you're satisfied with how your foot looks, sew on the other one, and then knot and hide your tails. Now we're going to add the nose and mouth, and then his tail. Alright, it's time to move on to his face. And to start, you're going to need a long strand of pink yarn. I'm going to push my needle down into my head, and I'm going to come out one round below my eyes. And I'm going to start where one corner of my nose is going to be. Then I'm going to go down one round and one stitch beneath me. And then come out one stitch over. Then go back up one round and up one stitch. Come out into this middle stitch right here. Now all I'm going to do is just go down one round again and into this corner here. Come back up into that middle stitch again. Then go down one round once more and into the opposite corner. And come up to this corner right here. And this time, I'm going to cross over to this bottom corner. Push up one round above me, and then cross over to the other corner. So you're just going to weave in and out of these 5 stitches like this until you've covered this space and the nose looks the way you want it to. When you're done, hide your yarn tails. For the mouth, you'll need a long strand of black yarn. And just like before, come down into the head and push my needle through the center of the tip of my nose here. Go down 1 stitch and then come out 2 stitches to your left. Push your needle back into that stitch in the middle again and come out the corner of the mouth. And this time I'm going to go up 1 round and then 1 stitch over, and I'm going to push my needle into that stitch. I'm going to bring my needle out of that center stitch again, and just like the other side, I'm going to count over 2 stitches, insert my needle, and come out through my head. Then, from the edge of my mouth, count up 1 round and 1 stitch over, pull my needle and yarn through that stitch, and down into the corner of my mouth. And there we go. Now, just hide your tail ends. Okay, so I finished the face, and we're going to make the tail. And for this, if you're using a flippier yarn, you won't have to brush it. If you're using acrylic, I suggest a cat brush, but you can use whatever you have. Before anything, you'll need to cut a long strand of yarn from your chosen tail color. I've got my cat brush right here that I use for just this sort of thing. Then take a yarn tail from your skein and loop it over your fingers. Then just start wrapping that yarn over your fingers over and over. Now, the number of fingers you wrap and how many times you wrap them will determine how big your tail is. But remember, you can always trim it down to size later. Once you've done that, slowly slip those loops off of your fingers. Don't let them come undone. And take that strand of yarn that we cut earlier. Lay the center of your loops over that strand of yarn. Take the 2 ends and tie them very, very tightly. Make sure that you're tying over the center of those loops. Knot the ends one more time. Then flip your loops over and tie the 2 tails tightly on the other side. And then knot them once more. Now, holding on to those 2 ends, grab your pair of scissors and start cutting through the center of your loops. Once you've done that, just trim those ends so they're about even. Attach one of these yarn ends to your needle. Pick up your bunny and find the spot you want to place your tail. So I'm going to push it into the stitch and out the one beside it. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You want to push your needle into the center of your knot. Don't catch those little yarn tails. Then go back down into that knot and into the body. Once your tail is secured, insert your other yarn tail, knot and hide them. Grabbing your brush, start to very gently brush those yarn strands. Make sure not to brush your project itself. If you lose 1 or 2 strands, so long as the others are secure, then that's not a concern. However, if they're all being pulled out, it's because your knots weren't tight enough and you'll have to redo the tail. Then just trim the tail to your liking afterwards. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the carrot. And I'm using acrylic yarn for this. And you start by making a magic circle of 6 single crochet. And for me, I won't be using a stitch marker for this because it's such a small project. I'll just be counting my stitches as I go. For the next round, you're going to increase from 6 to 8. So make 2 single crochet, then an increase. 2 single crochet, then an increase. Okay, I've got 8 stitches, and for the next 2 rounds, I'm just going to put a single crochet into each of those 8 stitches. Now, I'm increasing from 8 to 10. So put a single crochet into those first 3 stitches, then an increase into the next. Then 3 more single crochet and another increase. For 2 rounds, we're just putting a single crochet into those 10 stitches. So 20 single crochet total. Now we're increasing from 10 to 12. So 4 single crochet and then an increase. 4 single crochet and another increase. Next, we're going to put a single crochet into every stitch all around for 1 round. Okay, I'm just going to pause here and start stuffing my carrot a little bit. This is where the stuffing stick really comes in handy. With that done, we're going to do 2 more rounds of single crochet, so a total of 24 stitches. For this round, we're going to increase from 12 to 14, so 5 single crochet and then an increase. And do that one more time, 5 single crochet and an increase. Now we're increasing from 14 to 16, so 6 single crochet and then an increase. 6 single crochet, increase. And I'm going to take a minute here to just stuff my carrot a little bit more. For the next 2 rounds, you're just going to put a single crochet into every stitch, so a total of 32 single crochet. Alright, now we're decreasing from 16 to 12 stitches. So start with an invisible decrease, then make 2 single crochet, and then repeat that 3 more times. And at the end, you will have 12 stitches. For our last round, we're decreasing from 12 to 6. So when you're done, fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. I'm going to finish stuffing my carrot now, and once that's done, I'm going to thread that yarn tail onto my needle, and I'm going to start closing up my carrot. So I'm just going to go through those loops of my 6 stitches and start pulling them closer together. When you're done, just hide your tail yarn into the middle right here. Alright, let's make the carrot greens. And I'm going to start by chaining 7. And I'm going to skip that first chain and slip stitch into the next 6 chains. But I'm not going to fasten off. Instead, I'm going to chain 7 again. Skip that first stitch and slip down that chain once more. Now you can make however many greens you want. I'm going to make 3. So I'm going to chain 7 one more time and then slip through those 6 chains until the end. When you're done, cut your yarn and slip stitch into the first chain that you made to pull those greens together. Fasten off and attach a tail to your needle. I'm going to take my needle and push it down into the middle of my carrot. Come over 1 stitch and go through the base of those greens and down into my carrot again. And just do that a couple of times. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now just knot and hide your ends. So here he is. he's all finished. This is actually the second one I made because I want to fill him out just a little bit more. And as you can see, I added this cute little bow. So if you found this video useful, if you made it to the end, please be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you again soon.